All right, what's up? We got this thing dialed in here. First time I'm using Facebook Live, so thanks for waiting around if you've been sitting here since 7, because had a little technical issue. Trying to pull up everything right now so I can see any questions that are coming across. But first off, just want to say what's up and welcome, because it's Friday night and we're chilling talking about guitars. So, all right, so first things first, let me introduce myself. If you don't know me, my name is Jesse Park, and what's up, Greg? And I live in Costa Rica, down in the jungle here, and I got a family down here. I'm an active musician, playing guitar and bass. I love composing music. I love being in the studio. That's probably my favorite thing to do, and I really like playing live. And luckily down in Costa Rica, there's been a lot more people coming here in the last couple of years, so that opportunity has been a lot greater. So check it out. I got 2 axes that I want to play with, or that I have, and then I just want to see what you guys want to hear. I got Old Faithful here. It's my hollow body Paul Reed Smith. It's actually the spruce top version. They don't make it anymore. Beautiful, beautiful instrument. Completely hollow inside, and sounds like butter. So we have that as an option, or my new baby is the Taylor 814 CEN nylon string here. This thing is what I do a lot of my gigging with, a lot of weddings, and when I'm really trying to get down to the fundamentals of playing, this thing keeps me honest, because there's nothing to color it up. It's basically what you hear is what you get, and it also sounds great, and it's really playable. As far as a nylon string instrument, the neck is really more like a steel string, so the playability is outstanding all the way up here, high up on the fretboard. So those are the 2 options. Obviously, we're going to talk about some theory stuff and some other guitar-related technique, but I don't know. What do you guys want to see? Which one do you want to hear? Do you want to hear the hollow body, or do you want to hear the nylon string? Or do you want me to pick? Cheers, by the way. Friday night. What's up, Termite? See you tuned in there. Well, listen, I'm gonna grab the hollow body first here, and just kind of play it so you can hear it, nice and jazzy. So it's got a nice, clean, fat sound, whether I'm finger picking or whether I want to use a pick and kind of do some jazzy stuff here. Little blues. So we got this. I don't know if that's too loud in the mic. I'm not sure how that works. But we got to vote for the PRS right there. What's up, Justin from Cali? Haven't seen you for a while, bro. Hope everything's well with you and the fam. And of course, like I said, nylon string here is really good for like clean. I like to play a lot of bossa nova and stuff like that. I like kind of walking in bass lines with the chords that I'm playing sometimes. So once again, nice, clean sound with the nylon string. All right, right on. So let's get into this right now. I had a couple of questions that were sent over to me in the last day or so when I put this out there. So I want to briefly touch base a little bit on everything. First off, one of the things that I was asked is to kind of explain the difference between relative major and minor. This is super important. If you only know two scales, these are the two scales that you should know. The Ionian Scale, which is just a fancy word for major, or the Aeolian Scale, which is a fancy word for natural minor. I like to look at these scales kind of like cousins because they're basically the same kind of DNA, but you know, same grandparents, different parents, right? So basically, let's use the key of C as an example, because if you know anything about the key signatures, there's no sharps or flats in the key of C. And if we were to play C major here, right, we have the diatonic chords that go through and cycle with the key of C. And everything leads back to C being the tonal center, right? So those same chords are actually the same chords in a minor key as well, and that minor key is A minor. And so that's why they're relative minors, because the key signature is the same, but the tonal center is different. Why is this important? Because every single time you're approaching a song, a solo, you're writing a melody, or whatever it may be, you want to know how you can play without just feeling like you're in that box. So the first place to go is to know what the relative minor is. So if we were playing in the key of C, like I was just referencing, you could approach a melody or approach a solo just in, you know, that C major scale, that C Ionian scale. But you could also, like Danny just wrote, A minor. You could play A minor, A natural minor. Those notes are the same exact notes that you're playing in C major. It's just, if I made my chord progression more centered around the tonal center of A, then I'm going to want my solo to do the same. Doesn't mean I can't drift off into the other mode of the C major, but I want to eventually resolve it back to the A minor, because, you know, like I said, if that's our tonal center, we want to make that feel like home. If you're just running the scale to run the scale, then it's going to sound like a scale when you're soloing. You know, you want to know where your tonal center is no matter what mode you're playing. You can play any mode over any key, but you got to know where the tonal center is, or it's just going to sound like you're running the same notes over and over again. So anyway, you know, and one other thing is typically the Aeolian scale and the Ionian scale overlap each other. The minor scale and the major scale overlap each other. So now, instead of, like, if we were just talking in pentatonic, you know, you have this box. Instead of being stuck in this box, now all of a sudden you can move up into another box, which is your major. So your minor and your major overlap each other. And now, instead of covering just like 3 or 4 frets, you're covering more like 8 frets on your fretboard. So key signatures are a big part of this. If you don't know any key signatures, that's definitely something to consider. I just used the key of C because it was, you know, there's no sharps or flats in it. But let's do one other or 2 other examples just to kind of talk about it for a minute. So another popular key in guitar is the key of G major. And, you know, that's why all these kind of chords sound good, all these open position chords, because they're basically, you know, in the key of G. And then also, if you're playing rock and roll, not that that's just rock and roll, but, you know, power chords and whatnot, it's typically centered around E minor. G major and E minor are, you know, essentially cousins because, yeah, there you go, Danny, E minor, because they share the same key signature. So G major has 1 sharp in it, that's F sharp, and E minor has 1 sharp in it as well, the same F sharp. So the chords that fall in the key of G also fall in the key of A minor. Once again, you want to make your tonal center be around either E or around G in order to accomplish the sound that you're looking for. Anyway, so that's kind of my quick spiel with relative major and minor. The next step, if you're not sure about key signatures is like, you know, the how many sharps or how many flats are within a particular key. There's an order of that, and there's a little saying that goes along with that in order to help you get to the destination of how many sharps or flats are in that particular key. But for right now, I'm going to give you a quick cheat cheater move, you know. If you don't know key signatures at all, this is what it is. If you know what major key you're in, but you don't know what the relative minor is, all you gotta do is put your pinky on the major. So once again, using C as our example, 8th fret on the low E string. So if that's my major, my relative minor will be where my first finger lands, my index finger. So lining those fingers up, boom, now I'm on the 5th fret, and that note is A. So A would be my relative minor to C major. Let's try a different one. Let's do like a weird one. Let's do E flat. So if you find an E flat on your guitar, I don't know if you're holding your guitar right now, but if you are, find any E flat. I'm gonna pull this one up here on the 6th fret A string. Okay, so there's my E flat, pinky, that's E flat major. What's my relative minor? Follow it down to the first finger there, and I'm on the note C. So C minor is the relative minor to E flat major. Okay, one more, we'll do a sharp one. And we'll actually switch it up. So imagine you know the minor, but you don't know the major. Attaboy. Imagine you don't know the major, but you know the minor. So let's pick something like, I don't know, B minor, okay? So B minor is on the, well, I'll say B is the 7th fret on the low E string. If I put my first finger there, do the opposite. Line your fingers up. Pinky's gonna land on the relative major, which, anybody wanna call it out? Looking for the relative major to B minor. Come on, Danny, you got it, right? All right, I'll give it to you. If B minor is your minor, your relative major would be D. So that pinky lands up on D, and there you go. Yeah, and they share the same key signature. Do you know what the key signature is for B minor or D major? Same thing there. It's a sharp key, and it's 2 sharps. So, not sure if you guys know that, but we'll cover that on another lesson. So, 2 sharps, F and C sharp, in the key of B minor or in the key of D major. All right? So that's my quick spiel as far as relative major and minor goes, and why it's important to know that. The next thing I want to talk about is why sometimes, you know, it kind of tags along with it, but why sometimes your solo can sound like a scale rather than, I actually just got talking with one of our new guys about this, Danny, today. Why sometimes the solo can sound like a scale rather than an actual solo. Part of that is if you don't know where the tonal center is, you're just playing notes. You're just playing random notes that work. Yeah, it's like ingredients within a food dish. You know, it's like if it all works, you know, it can pass. But you want to pull the ingredients out that are going to make the dish pop, that are going to make the song kind of like stand good. There's certain notes that favor and have more color to them than you know, other notes that just kind of mesh and blend in the background. I always use pasta as the example with this because like if you just throw more pasta on, that's like throwing more root notes, more fourths and fifth intervals. They sound fine, but they're not lush, right? It's just a filler, pasta or rice. But when you have garlic or you have cayenne pepper or something like that, that's when you're throwing some real spice into your playing. So within your scales and how to make them sound like solos instead of just scales, you want to know which notes are going to give you more flavor, which notes are going to give you more pop over the chords you're playing. So knowing the chords and being able to dial the tonal centers within your scales is super important. Another thing is, just as I was just mentioning with the minor scale overlapping with the major scale, you want to be able to start playing more linear this way as opposed. All right, sorry guys, internet's falling apart here, but we're all right. All right, I'm gonna move on. What I was basically saying is I'm trying to get you guys to play out of the box. So instead of just playing your box this way, start moving up and down the neck this way. So you start doing things that are more slides, moving kind of up on the same string. That'll get you out of this kind of, you know, same old pentatonic box. You want to get out of that, right? You want to start moving linearly up the neck of the guitar, not just up and down this way, okay? So now I want to jump into, so I think Danny, you asked how to strengthen the pinky up a little bit. So if you guys know modes or know a scale that involves all 4 fingers anyway, I think that's the best way to start on this. I'm going to use the G Ionian Scale just as an example because probably most people know it. And this is actually borrowed from a vocal exercise that we used to do in high school. All right, so basically what we're going to do is we're going to play a note. We're going to add a note to the scale each time we play it. So you're going to be like do, do, re, mi, re, do, re, mi, fa, mi, re, do. All right, so I'm going up a degree each time and then coming back down. And what that's going to do is not only work your pinky, but it's going to work all the different combinations that you need to play, you know, when you're improvising. You don't want anything to feel like uncharted territory. You want it to feel like you've done it a million times and it's like nothing. All right, so I'm going to do this real slow. And let me know if you understand what I'm talking about or if it's not clear. But basically, I'm just going to play up the scale, eventually 2 octaves, but I'm going to add a note each time. So we got. And if you're a vocalist, you know, match the pitch at the same time. I won't do that to you guys because I don't want to sing right now, but that'd be a good idea if you do sing. All right, here's 1 octave complete. All right, now I could go back from the top, down. Okay, so you got that whole thing where you're just adding a note each time. Eventually, when you get 2 octaves involved, you know, I'll just do it really fast to hear it. And you know, alternate picking each time. This is where you're really getting the pinky in there once you get up to that B string. Now all the way out to the 7th degree. And then complete 2 octaves. Back down. And this right here, Danny, is where you're going to get your pinky really involved because you're going back and forth over it. All right, so on and so forth. Now once you, what up, Stefan? Yeah, dude, Slayer, principles apply. You could go from, once you got it down on the major, then you can kind of go up to Dorian, right? If you know A Dorian, just to keep it within the key, you could do the same principle, but now the combinations are going to switch, right? It's going to go. And you'll notice the sound will change too, of course. Okay, all the way up 2 octaves back and forth. So great finger exercise. Great drill for your ear and for your, you know, the different fingers. And you never know, when you're running it, you might come out with a crazy riff. You know, I was talking to you, Danny, earlier about the Locrian scale, and the Locrian scale definitely is weird because you have that flat 5, but look at how, you know, Dimebag Darrell made all his riffs. They're just all that diminished kind of 5th sound. So when you're running these scales, you can maybe make something cool up that's out of your box. You know, it might be weird at first, you might not know how to use it, but just be funky with your rhythms and just the patterns. You never know, like hear something in your head and then try to duplicate it on your fingers on the guitar. Okay, next thing, just blowing through a few things real quick here. Want to talk about making up music on the spot. So just, I don't know what to play right now and I'm stuck. You're in a rut, right? Well, if you know anything about chord sequence, there's the same diatonic chord sequence that applies throughout all major keys, okay? That's 1 major 7. I'll just play it as I go along. We'll do the key of C again. 1 major 7, so that's C major 7, 2 minor 7, D minor 7, 3 minor 7, E minor 7, right? 4 major 7, F major 7 there. I'll drop down here. G7's the 5 chord. So it's G7, then A minor 7 right there. B minor 7 flat 5. It's the 7th degree, and then we resolve back to the C major, okay? So now that sequence, the 1 major, 2 minor, 3 minor, so on and so forth, applies to all the keys. It doesn't matter. I'm just using keys of C as an example. But now let's just make up a chord progression based off of the key of C by pulling it out of thin air. You know, a lot of times in jazz, they do things like 1-6-2-5 progressions, or you'll hear things about like a 2-5-1. Well, that's just referencing the degree within the scale of which chord to hit. I'm just gonna make one up, just call it out right now. I'm gonna start with the 1 chord, then I'm gonna go to the 2 chord, then I'm gonna go to the 6 chord, and then to the 5 chord. All right, so here we go. We're gonna go 1 chord, C major 7, to the 2 chord, which is gonna be a D minor 7, and then I believe I said a 5 chord, so that'll be G7, and then the 6 chord, A minor 7. All right, so I'm just totally applying that theory to the key of C, and I can play in any style I want. So right now, I'm just gonna do it in kind of like a bossa jam, but remember, 1 major, 2 minor, 5 major, 5 dominant, and then 6 minor. So I don't know, just come up with a rhythm or something. Back to the beginning. That's just C major 7 again. My 5 chord, and then my 6 chord. Back to 1. So I'm kind of doing this like jazzy little bossa. Okay, just made it up. Now let's try something totally different. Let's do a 2-5-3-1, and let's do it in a different key. Let's switch it up. Maybe we'll do it in the key of, I don't know, B flat, whatever I said. 2-5-3-1. So 2 chord in the key of B flat. B flat has 2 flats in the key, B flat and E flat. So the 2 chord, B flat, C. C will be our 2 chord, and the 2 chord's minor. So we're gonna start off on a C minor this time. And then 2-5, so the 5 chord in the key of B flat is going to be an F. So that'll be an F major or an F7, depending on if you want to do the jazz chord. 2-5-3-1, I think I said. 2-5. The 3 is going to be a D chord, and it's a minor once again. And then B flat back to our 1. So 2-5-3-1. Maybe we'll do this one a little more upbeat. Let's see. Okay, so like I said, I'm just pulling chords out of thin air, and at least they sound good. I'm not saying they're like the next hit song on the radio or something like that, but if you're just not sure where to go and you have like a riff and you want a couple other chords that you can throw against what you already have, figure out what key you're in, figure out what other chords are available within that key, and then try going back and forth. Now right now I'm just throwing 4 chords out there, but in reality a lot of times things go back and forth between 2 chords, where I could just be kind of going. And then maybe after a while I switch it up, add that next chord. Right? So you can kind of find the vamp or the jam that works best with your ears and what you're trying to do. Obviously, there's much more involved in that as far as borrowing and substituting. And right now, I'm just playing in basic vanilla major, so it's kind of not that fancy. But there's tons and tons you can do with that. And obviously, right now I'm talking about like, I'm playing on a nylon string guitar, but the same principles apply even if you were making a rock song. You take out the sevenths, you take out the thirds, and now you're just playing the power chords. At least you know what power chords work within that scale or work within that key. And from there you could totally like, just riff and use your ear to, make something cool happen. So, yeah, that's just kind of my quick run through on that. The other thing is, if you're making a song up and you got the whole A section and you just don't know where to go, going back to that relative minor that we were talking about is huge, because that's, like I said, within the same key, but now you're going to shift up the tonal center. So if you're in the key of E flat major for your verses and your chorus, and you're not sure where to go for that bridge, drop it down to C minor, the relative minor there for your other section of the song, to create some contrast and also still keep it within the same spectrum. So a lot of different things we can do with that. I just wanted to try this out for the first time today, doing the Facebook Live and talking to you guys and just answering a couple of questions. Basically, the one last thing I want to touch on before I get out of here is, a lot of people tell me they don't have much time to play every day, and they want to know how to best utilize their time spending with the guitar. So no matter what level you're at, I'd say definitely take a few minutes and do some of those exercises that I was saying in the beginning about, if you already know your modes, take the modes, add a note each time, get these different combinations down. Up and down, like I said, I'm just doing it in Ionian and major right now. Do it in Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian, Aeolian, Locrian, the whole 9 yards. Get going to have your fingers have that flexibility and break away the old patterns of things that you've been doing from playing the same exercises. I promise you, if you do that stuff up and down, and like I said, start slow. You only want to play it as fast as you can play it clean. So if that is nice and if that's really slow, the only way you can play it clean, then do that. It's not a speed exercise yet. Once you get it like the back of your hand, then you can pop it up and try to do it like a little bit faster. So there's that. Then, yeah, I mean, a lot of different things to talk about. It's just an overview, but hopefully this gave you guys something to think about. I would say after those kind of warm-ups and scales, you should go through some kind of chord building to where you're going through the diatonic sequences in various keys. So like I said, in the key of C and the key of G, it's super easy because there's no sharps or flats, or in the key of G, there's just one sharp. So boom, 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 running through those chords is not a big deal. But eventually you're going to get bored with that and you're going to want to play something else. So in order to switch that up into E flats and A flats and F sharps or whatever key you want to play in, you want to be able to apply that same sequence to any key, and then playing it out on the guitar and seeing how it's laid out will help tremendously. If you have a way to record yourself, just like on your phone or something like that, make up a progression like I was doing, where you're just pulling those chords from the key out of thin air, play them in a style that you like, and then record yourself, and then play that video back and take a mode and try to solo over top of that. I promise you that you'll be impressed on how many different styles and different chord progressions you can make up, and also how it'll be challenging. Think about what you're playing. Don't just play shapes. Look at a chord. If you're playing a G major chord, what notes are you actually playing in that G major chord? Yeah, G, B, D, but look at the fingers. This is a G, that is a D, that's not a B. It's not like on the piano where you necessarily play 1, 3, 5, it's 1, 5, 1 again, 3, 5, 1 again, right? So look under each finger and know what you're playing. This is important because then when you get down the line and you're ready to alter the chord in some way, whether you're adding a tension or you're doing a different inversion, you know which notes you have under your fingers and which ones you need to adjust in order to accomplish that new chord. So there's that. Like I said, record yourself, play over top of it. That'll give you some improv skills and some single note stuff. And then, keeping it fun. Find a song that you like, that you don't know, that's inspiring to you, and hopefully it's something that covers the same material that you're working on, whether it be a technique or a scale or a key or something like that, and learn it. Find out what they're doing exactly. And I'm not saying just look up the tab. Like I said, look at the chord progression. What movements are they doing? How are they creating contrast? How are they creating tension and release? And why is that song appealing? You'll notice actually once you get into key signatures and keys in general, I mean, at least I found for me, a lot of songs I like tend to be in the same couple of keys. I'm a sucker for C minor. I like it a lot, and I typically, it doesn't matter what the style is, when I hear a song in C minor, I'm like, damn, this is pretty good. So you'll have to find out what it is that you particularly like, but yeah, don't limit yourself to the same couple of keys. Remember, there's 12 different keys, so utilize them, and have fun. Let me know if you guys have any questions. It was a pleasure sharing Friday night with you. We're going to do this again soon. Hopefully we get some more questions in the future to touch upon. And by all means, if you guys are looking for extra help, you want to be a part of a great community of guitar players that are trying to progress, hit me up to book an appointment to apply for the My Guitar Sessions program. And we'd love to have you. Pura vida. Have a great weekend, guys.